I'm Vin.
I'm Sori.
That's Bully.
And Culpy and Chip and Ghosty.
Ghosty. What's up,
So
Culpy?
we have a $75 partner tier where you can have a local band reviewed. However, people have figured out how to hack into that and just get any band that they want reacted to because they know
Life hacked.
we're not gonna refuse them. So this one is for the big. It's funny. There's like multiple people with the name Alan on the $75 tier.
I know. What's up with that? I was gonna say,
But
like,
you know
Alan
it's not
again?
the other Alan because it's not Pain of Salvation here.
Oh, that's true.
So apparently this one is punk, but he was like, oh, this is it's an important post-punk band that didn't make it into the punk week.
What's the name of the song?
Suggestion.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
It's one of their more subdued songs, but it's a good one. And also, he said that it's gonna abruptly stop because it immediately goes into the next song. And then he goes, rock on with your bad selves. That made me laugh. I literally laughed when I read that part.
Why?
I don't know. I just liked it with your bad selves. I don't know. It was fun sounding. And you know what it was? Nobody's ever said that before. So when you're on like a forum where you talk to multiple people, some people will repeat the same things. Like when I used to work in a deli at Hannaford, and people would be like, so working hard or hardly working? And you're like, lots of people have said that just today. You know, it's not, but they think they're so clever for saying it.
They weren't clever. They were just trying to find a way to break the ice and talk to you. That's all they were trying to do.
Well, anyway,
You're the worst.
I just think it's fun when people think that they
absolute
come up
worst.
with their own thing, but it's like actually something that like lots of people have done before them.
Sori's completely clueless on our effect on people, so.
So anyway, this line, rock on with your bad selves, nobody has used that. So I was like, yes, okay, Al, good. I shall rock on with my bad self. All right.
For timely topical political commentary, you can hit us up at Middle America with Vin and Sori.
Fugazi, you think?
Yeah, I'm going to call it Fugazi. Although the what's his face? He called it Fugazi
Really?
in a Jay-Z. You crazy, you Fugazi. I'm loco with Dope Popo. But I don't think he was talking about this band.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so the name of this song is Suggestion. The name of the band is Fugazi.
Ready? Go.
Let's go.
Suffer. Suffer your words, suffer your eyes, suffer your hands. Suffer your interpretation of what it is. Of what it is. What it is. What it is. To be a man.
Wow. Yeah.
Life gets a Life gets a She does nothing to deserve it. He looks at her cause he wants to observe it. We sit back like they taught us. We keep quiet like they taught us. He wants to prove it. She does nothing to remove it. We don't want anyone to mind us. We play the roles that they assign us. She does nothing to conceal it. He touches her cause he wants to feel it. We blame her for being there. We are all here. We are all.
Wow. What is the next song on the album?
Glue Man.
Wow.
We were all guilty.
Yeah. Yikes.
Yeah, we are. That's the collectivism in me.
Yep. This one kind of threw me off at the beginning because he actually sounds like he's talking like from a woman's perspective.
Yeah,
like,
he was.
Oh, he was.
He was talking from the woman's perspective.
I mean, that's what it sounded like
Yeah.
to me. I mean,
Yeah, he was absolutely talking from the woman's perspective. Yeah.
so scroll up.
I can't.
Oh,
It's
the
frozen.
spinning rainbow.
Well, you can do it this way. Why can't I walk down the street free of suggestion?
I think of stuff like that a lot. Like when you get to go running at night by yourself.
Yeah?
I'm like, must be nice, you know?
Yeah.
You just take off without having to worry. And
Yeah. No,
I actually decided like the last time that I was out running, I was like, I'm so tired of going out running or walking and being scared the whole time that something's gonna happen. I've wasted years of like worrying, and I'm like, I'm not gonna worry anymore. If something happens, it's gonna happen, and I'm not gonna be paranoid about it because I can't enjoy the trees when I'm worried about the men that might be behind the trees.
Yeah. I obviously have a different perspective, but you know,
Yes, I'm sure.
you're your own person. Yeah, I very much appreciate this song because it is up to men to call this shit out.
That's true. Yeah, it's a guy calling it out. Yeah, that's
Because we live in a society that is still dominated by men. You know, and this is one of the reasons why I'm so vocal in speaking out against the sex industry. Mm-hmm. Because it's an industry that, you know, if you want to watch the debate, go to the Middle America. I'm not going to rehash the whole debate. What I will say though is, you know, that Belle Nox, her name is Miriam. I forgot what her full name was, but she lost her financial aid, and so then she went into the porn industry. So on the one hand, she's talking about how empowering it is and blah 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 as a woman, and then we saw that other clip, and we're not going to play the clip here, but we'll put the clip in the suggestion. I mean, in the comment section, and you can see her talking about having to sleep with a 50-year-old man that she didn't want to sleep with, but her agent wouldn't tell her who he was until she stepped on the set. And then there was all this pressure for her to do this with the guy, and she'd have to pay a $300 kill fee, and then she'd get blacklisted and all the rest of it. And it's like, it blurs the lines.
Other women were calling her a brat because she was crossing lines.
And she was scared to death of being trafficked, even though she was a mainstream, very famous porn star. And, you know, it's men, you know, one of the guys was commenting, you know, I have a very, very hard time with dudes who are like, oh yeah, girl, be as sex positive as you want, and oh yeah, we love your bodily autonomy. They love it when they can feast on it. They can you know, predatorily feast on these women in this situation. She wouldn't have been in that situation if she wouldn't have had to pay for her school.
Oh yeah, and like, you know, when like, obviously nursing, we just had a baby a couple months ago, but like, public nursing is looked at as like, oh my gosh, how dare she take that out in public, you know, like, and it's like, wait a minute, so now it's a problem, like, you know, to abuse a woman's body for the pleasure of men and women that want to consume that's okay, but heaven forbid she uses that for feeding her child.
Well, yeah, it's the same thing with, you know, like Jenna Jameson. We were having a conversation about abortion, and Jenna Jameson takes the wrong side on abortion, meaning she's pro-life, and then all the comments under it were, why don't you go back to blah, 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 blah. So when she was in the business and you were deriving all this pleasure off of her body, it was, oh yeah, be as positive as you want. And then she stepped off the range, and then you go and bring that back up again. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And it's gotta be men. We've gotta, like, definitely, you know, women definitely need to speak up for themselves, and they do. There's lots of feminists who have published studies bringing awareness to the fact that a lot of the women in the sex industry are in a horrible situation. 75% of them were homeless. 89% of them said they would rather be doing something else, but they can't because of the financial situation. 60 to 90% of them suffered PTSD.
What was the percentage of the ones that were molested or raped?
In her report, it was 60 to 95%. But you can go to Psychology Today right now, and they'll tell you that sex work is a comorbidity of being abused early on as a child. So you put all these things together. We've got 16 states that have declared pornography as a public health crisis. You've got Minnesota, which is the bluest state in the union, that connects pornography to sex trafficking. I mean, it's just a horrible, 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 horrible industry. But you've got disingenuous guys saying, yeah, we love female positivity. Yeah, because that means you get to feast on these women like you've been doing in the street.
Right.
And it's absolutely destructive. But, I mean, even like, calling that was one of the things that bothered me about the backlash to the Gillette commercial. You know, because one of the scenes was the guy was going after a girl, and the guy stopped and said, yo man, like chill out, like we have got to do that because the society is still dominated by men. I mean, those are the facts. We're not in an equal society, and they're not in an equal, women are not in an equal role. Now, I don't think women are victims. I think women are survivors. I think women are very intrepid, and they're very intelligent, and they know, most of them know that the world is stacked against them, and they're going to figure out ways to survive in that world. Whether it's you having to think through, you know, running, you know, at night, and how you're going to, you know, operate around that. Like, women have to deal with a set of issues that men do not have to deal with.
Right.
And I think most men are unconscious of it. I think, you know, it's just like the same with the white-black stuff. I think most men are unconscious of what it's like to be a woman in America, what it's like to be objectified, how it feels to have your body become the sum total of everything that you...
Yeah, because there's a real predatory feel. Yeah. Sometimes the way that a man does that, you know, like, we're not ignorant, like, we know what's going on when you know, like, sometimes they'll, like, stop as you're walking by, and then they wait until you're, like, past them to, like, look, so that way they can, like, just watch you as you're going. It's creepy. Like, why are you being that creepy? Yeah. Like, there's a window right there. I can see what you're doing. You know, like, there's that. There's, like, you just, you know, people, you know, you go for a walk, and then people are honking their horns at you and stuff. It's like, I'm just going for a walk. Like, I don't need your horn at me. Yeah. Like, leave me alone. And like so many women feel like that feeling of like, ugh, would you stop like taking from me? Like with your eyes? Like what are you doing? Like obviously we know that you're not looking at us in the best of ways, because we can feel it. Like it's a horrible feeling to feel like someone is just taking from you, and you know, oh man, like, and it happens all the time. And like it's even more disgusting when like it's an old man, because it's like, you haven't figured this out. Like you haven't figured out that women are more than just their bodies. Like you're that old and you're still looking at girls that could be your granddaughter. Yeah. Like you have a problem, sir.
No, I get it.
But you know what? The porn industry feeds into that too.
It does.
Because you're so used to just consuming women's bodies that even, I'm not even going to get into the argument of whether the girls actually legit want to be there or not for that. Yeah. But let's just say even that they did. But you've now trained your mind to just consume and take from somebody that you're not even having a conversation with. Your game is so low, and it's such a mess. And so then you take that mentality and you go out into the public with it. And so all the women that you see, like it just becomes you're just consuming.
Yeah,
you don't realize it.
It's crazy to me that people actually believe that that our society can be completely pornified without a contrary voice, without it having a deleterious effect on the way that men view women.
Right.
Right. You know, I talked about when I went to, you know, Dorian was about 5 or 6. I went to get milk at the local convenience store, and there was this whole, you know, of course, I didn't notice it because I don't notice that stuff. But then I'm with Dorian, and I see him looking around, and then there's Maxim and all this. So I went to the front and was like, "Yo, I don't want. Why do we need to have this out in public view? Like, put it out in the back if somebody wants a Maxim. I'm trying to get milk with my son here." And the woman looked at me like I was from the planet Xenon. And the reason for that is I know that I have to actively militate against that mentality. Because if I walk my kid through hundreds of times of shopping at that particular place, and I don't call out the fact that this is wrong, he's going to think that this is normal. And he's going to think that he's just supposed to be able to just objectify women. And as long as your hands do, you know, it's a whole look but don't touch thing, which is BS. Like, none of us believes that. Like, so for example, like if we were, you know, at a beach and we saw some 70-year-old guy looking at the private area of some little girl, we'd be like, yo, we wouldn't say, hey, you didn't touch her, so it's all good. Everybody would go and have words with that guy. Well, so we do know that looking in a predatory fashion is itself an evil. It's not as bad as putting your hands on a person, but it's not a neutral action either. Right. It's an evil action. And so it is very, very interesting to me the way that, because I've spoken against, I've advocated, I've joined the feminists. This is actually a feminist thing that's happening. It's not a Christian thing. Right. I've joined some radical feminists who are against the commoditization of the female body. I think it was Julie Bindel that says, you know, a woman's vagina is not a workplace. Like, stop commoditizing women. And, you know, one former sex worker said, at least when you're working, she's like, yeah, sure, we're getting exploited when we work at McDonald's. But she said, at least when we work at McDonald's, we're not the meat. Yeah. Oh. And so I just think it's like, do we really honestly believe, forget about agreeing with Vin or whatever, but do you really honestly believe that a society can be flooded with pornography, that a child can come up from 5 years old on up, never hear a contrary voice, and really grow up to not believe that it's his right to objectify women and see their bodies in the way that he wants to see them? You really think, I'm not saying is it right, what I'm saying is in the practical real world, do you really think that that's the case? Men have always had predatory mindsets when it comes to women. That's always been the case. We know that. And so when you're constructing a society, you have to understand the strengths and weaknesses of your given society, and then create structures around that to protect vulnerable people. So if you know that you've already got a society that is marked by men's predatory behavior toward women, especially in a sexual context, then those issues have to be relevant. We need to have serious discussions about them.
And the thing is, it's not like that men have lost the ability to care for women rather than objectify them, because, like I said, when I was pregnant,
Yeah.
you know, your body type is completely different.
Yeah.
And and the reaction and the way that I was treated was very different. Like, there was a lot of care, there was a lot of concern, it was door holding and, you know, smiling and, like, looking like, oh, that's so cute, you know what I mean? But, like, you know, it wasn't very long after I had the baby, that feeling changed again. And I remember walking into a store and I got that creepy, somebody's watching me feeling, and I looked and there was a man that was just, like, looking at me. It was so gross the way he was looking at me, and I thought to myself, it's over. The pregnancy, the time of being cared for by men is over. Now it's back to being objectified.
Yeah. It's absolutely terrible. And of course, as a you know, my sister, I was on the phone with her. She had just got done working out, and she's in Brooklyn, New York, and, you know, I mean, that's just common in Brooklyn. And, you know, my sister is, you know, she's my sister, so she said whatever she said, and I'm just in Maine holding the phone, not able to do anything for her, you know, but it's mind-boggling to me, the stuff that, you know, that women have to go through, and the stuff that is just... It's like, you should expect this, and you know, blame her. She does nothing to conceal it, you know. So it's like, oh, here we go. Let's blame her for what she wore, or what she didn't wear. Hey, newsflash: she can walk around naked. Doesn't mean you could touch her. Doesn't mean you can put your hands on her. Doesn't mean any of that. So, you know, and you know what's crazy is, I've had family members that worked in special victims units, and the stuff that these pedophiles were saying about these girls are literally the exact same thing that rapists say about women. That's literally...
I was thinking about that the other day.
See, that's why he had to leave. He had to leave that whole thing, because he was getting them after and trying to rehabilitate them. He's like, you know what, I'm just going to go and find them and, you know, track them down and get them locked up and not deal with them after that, because, you know... It's brutal stuff. But, you know, it's like, there's... In what you discover, you spent yourself, boy, watching me suffer. Suffer your words, suffer your eyes, suffer your hands, suffer your interpretation. And, you know, when I was listening to Belle Nox talk about it, you know, where she talked about tears and her body being torn up and torn to shreds because she's, you know... And then she tried to like swing it and say, well, you know, it's a job like anything else. And then she went back to, you know, talking about being trafficked and talking about, you know, wishing her mom could help her and protect her and all this, and knowing that her mom would kill her to see that happening to her, because her mom was always protective of her. So now it's like, these girls are like literally suffering. I mean, there's literally sites called abuse. And it literally says abuse. And the whole goal is to abuse this woman. So now she's got to suffer so that you can get sexual gratification off of her abuse. And it's not right. And the reason why people react so emotionally to it is because we all know it's not right. And a lot of people are addicted to this stuff. And it's not, it's evil. And some of the justifications I've heard are crazy. It's like, well... You know, there's a lot of guys who are sex addicts and rapists who get to, you know, do that, and so they don't, you know, it stops them from doing it to somebody else. And it's like, well, if that was your daughter, would you on the abuse site, would you say that?
I don't believe it either. I don't care what the stats say. I don't believe it. I don't believe that you can consume that over and over and over and not have it affect you and not have you do something. I mean, we already know of cases where, you know, husbands, boyfriends have treated their wives and girlfriends in certain ways because of what they saw. Seduct.
Yeah. And again, it's like this crazy Machiavellian, so this girl is suffering, sure, but hey,
people that I know of didn't report it, so...
They never...
Forget your stats, because there's so much that goes unreported.
Yeah, it never gets reported. And look, you know, we talk about this because you're like, you're so hard on men, you're so hard on men. It's like, okay... what I would say for men is that, especially if you grow up in Western society, you're not being actively told about the destruction that the sex industry has on women. You're not told that. What you're told is, oh, they love me. You're not told about PTSD and dissociative disorder. You're not told that Psychology Today links, entrance into sex work to childhood sexual abuse. You're not told any of that stuff. You're just told, hey, you have these urges and these girls like it and they're getting money, they're living a glamorous lifestyle, blah. And so I will say, okay, a lot of us, could be, Jesus said much is given, much is required, so you can excuse it by ignorance, but not anymore. Go check out the Farley study. We'll put a link to the Farley study, and you can look at what these women are going through. But I mean, even aside from sex work itself, just the general treatment of women in our country and what's accepted is, and you had the Me Too movement that kind of flared up for a second and died out, and there were some overcorrections in the Me Too movement. My issue with the Me Too movement was it kept going on specific issues instead of going to the root cause issue. Why do men believe that they have the right to do these things is the question. And none of us wants to look ourselves in the mirror and ask that question. Why do we have this sense that we have the right to do this to these women? Why is this normalized? And how did it become normalized? So that's why Me Too kind of sprang up and then fizzled out, is because you were just picking off fruits off the apple tree, but nobody was addressing, there's an entire root system underground here. And nobody wants to look at it, and everybody wants to when I talk about this stuff, like these people, even though they have no contrary facts or anything like that, they want to act like there's no correlation whatsoever. And that denialism is not going to get us anywhere. I think the song is really, really important, and it says, we don't want anyone to mind us, so we play the roles that they assigned us. Yep. And that happens with a lot of dudes. Like, there's some good. Well, I remember being in high school and being like, yo! And then a girl would walk by, and then we'd all be talking, and there'd be one kid that was silent, and he never said anything. And now looking back, I know what was going on in that guy's head. He's like, yo, this isn't right. You should be talking about these girls this way. But we were all like, ah. But if he would have said something, we would all jumped on him. See what I'm saying? So, it says we don't want anyone to mind us. We want to play the roles that they assigned us. It's like, oh, we don't want to say anything, because if you step out and say something, like, you see what happens anytime you speak out against the porn industry. People go crazy. Oh, yeah. People go crazy on you. Yep. And of course now, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. And now it's gotten to the point where, I think Adult Video News said like 40% of the new porn is based on like the abuse of women or something like that. Or like, features women being assaulted physically or verbally or whatnot. But she signed a consent form, so it's okay. That's fine. Yeah. Who cares why she signed it? She signed it, so that absolves you of any responsibility.
Even if she said, oh, I really want this to happen, get that girl some help. Right. That doesn't mean you should just feast off of it. Right. If she wants to be like black and blue, like
there's something wrong with her.
There's something wrong, obviously.
Yeah, I agree. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. But we've got to have that conversation, and I love that phrase. We're all guilty, and we talked about guilt in the Bible Bash. Sometimes it's used too much. Right? And other times it's used not enough. So if a person I think all of us are not fans of utilizing guilt all the time for every little thing. But we also know there's people that never feel guilt. We call those people sociopaths. Right. Yeah. So if you never feel guilt about anything, then okay, then you're a sociopath. Now, when it says we here, that speaks to the whole collectivism idea, that you can collectively, even though you individually don't take part in something, you can collectively still be accounted as guilty because you didn't do anything to stop it per se. And so I love that last statement there, because that's specifically to me about men per se. If we dominate societies, and we do, then it's on us to actively speak against it.
Yeah.
You cannot remain quiet or neutral. You have to actively speak against it if you happen to be a dominant member of a group in a society. Because if you stay quiet, then the marginalized group, as much as they speak, they don't have the power to actually affect real change. So, you know, it is on us to really do that.
Yeah, for me, that part, like, we're all guilty, was all the ways in which, like, there is oppression for women. You know, it's the mom who, like, is not trying to encourage, like, a healthy lifestyle for her daughter, but is more concerned with her daughter being fat and embarrassing her, you know, embarrassing her because her daughter's overweight.
That's
so
true.
she has to fit into this certain box. So then the mom, you know, fat shames her or whatever to really, and it, you know, I've known people in these situations, you know, or it's the girl that, you know, the other girls are pressuring her to wear certain things like they're wearing to get the attention like they're getting, or, hey, how many phone numbers have you gotten tonight? And while, you know, like, all these things that we do to kind of, like, propagate this, like, your value comes from, like, the attention or from what you're wearing or from, you know, whatever, like, all those different things. Like, it's bigger than just that. But I think that, you know, or the women, like, after, I'm so distracted when you're scrolling, or, like, the women when, you know, like, girls were speaking out to say, hey, like, in the porn industry, I was harmed, or I was using my safe words and people weren't stopping, and different things like that. And then, like, other women come in the comment section and berate that woman. Like, you're a woman. Or when the Me Too movement was really going, and then people were caught lying about what happened to them. Like, that also, like, adds into it. Like, we need to be telling the truth, and, like, you know, people that are actually doing something should be in trouble, but we shouldn't, like, you know, make the whole movement look like it's a lie, and make it so that way people don't want to actually take it seriously.
Yeah, well, and again, that was one of the problems with the Me Too movement, was that it was led and spearheaded mostly by women, but the problem is they're the ones that are marginalized. So, you know, that during the civil rights movement, love Malcolm, love Martin, but if there weren't white men, specifically white men of power, you had the Kennedys. And I'm not saying that these people were like, you know, Pan-Africans, but you had people in power that were saying, no, this is not right what we're doing to these people. Same thing with Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln was an absolute racist.
Yeah.
But you had Lincoln, you had the John Browns of the world. White folks were saying, no, we can't, because if they left it only to the Frederick Douglasses of the world, we'd still have slavery, because Frederick Douglass was part of the marginalized group. And so it's the same thing here. I'm not saying that women are you know, petulant victims who can't stand up for themselves. What I'm saying is, just mathematically speaking and on a historical level, you need allies in the majority group or the dominant group to advocate for you and push forward your agenda. And if you stay silent, then you're part of it. I mean, it's that simple. So there you go. I
mean, it's a 10 for me.
Very good song. It's a 10. Very important song. Very interesting, considering, you know, the debate we just did a couple days ago. Watch the debate.
It's up on Middle America. You'll see it.
We'll post a link for the Belle Nox thing if you want to see it. And, you know, if you're a guy, pay close attention to it and see if you can justify this stuff to yourself as a man and as a human being. Like I always say, you do not need to be a Christian to have empathy for human beings, and that's what the major thing that our atheist friends have taught us is that we've got some of the most compassionate, giving, generous, empathetic human beings on the face of the earth in our village, and so just look at it and see if something that you as an empathetic human being could countenance, would want for your mother, your daughter, your friends, and besides that, just a human being, period. All right, much love to everybody. Vin out.
Sori out.
Gone.
She does nothing to deserve it. It looks just her cause he wants to observe it. We sit back like they taught us. We keep quiet like they taught us. He wants to prove it. She does nothing